Hi, my name's Adam Erickson. I'm here with Tripp Hudgens, and we are at Tripp's church.
It is my church.
It is Tripp's church. And we are here to talk about the fifth session on Revelation. This is our final session. This is chapters 19 through 22. More difficult stuff going on, especially in chapter 19.
Right, we have this whole vision where we have Christ coming, it seems, covered in blood on a white horse with a sword coming out of his mouth, and this final battle between the powers of God, which represent for John the powers of life, and the powers of death, which are represented by the beast.
Yeah, and the interesting apocalyptic literature is trying to understand how evil comes to an end.
Right.
And one of the fascinating things about this blood that Jesus is covered in, the Son of Man is covered in, is that he's covered in blood before he even goes out to battle. So whose blood is this? Well, John leaves it up to interpretation.
Right.
Except that you already know that the lamb has been slaughtered and is covered in blood. So it's faithful to interpret this as being Jesus' own blood already. He's already covered in his own blood.
Right. And there have been, up to this point, several instances in this epistle where you talk about the blood of the lamb, that there's the wine press and the lamb's blood, this redemptive blood of Christ, the redemptive sacrifice.
You get this especially in chapter 5, where there's this song, and the blood of the lamb is what reconciles the nations,
right.
People of every tribe, of every tongue. They reconciles all of these people to God and to one another.
Right, and all creation will actually sing this song. This is the new tune that is in the heavenly throne room. All creation sings this song of reconciliation.
By the blood of the Lamb, yes.
Right.
And then in chapter 6, you get this notion where the saints are hiding from some kind of catastrophic evil that's going to happen. And they say, "How long, Lord? When will you avenge our blood?"
Right.
And so human blood, that's not the blood of the Lamb, but human blood cries out for vengeance, prays for this vengeance. And it almost looks as if in chapter 19, that prayer is going to be answered.
Well, and this is where it gets tricky, and we both confess this is really hard going. This is not clear to us. The literary form is foreign, and it's hard to get to. But if the redemptive piece is the blood of the lamb, and if the sword is repeatedly the sword that comes from the mouth of the lamb is always the word, the word of testimony, the word of witness, then the blood and the word is what slays evil. And so how is this violence come about? This is the piece that's so difficult, because all we can think about is the sword is used to cleave flesh in half. And even the carrion birds were told at the end of 19, at the end of 20, feast on the flesh. Yeah.
And here is where you get this revenge the saints are praying for. And so the kings of the earth, chapter 19 says, along with the beast and the false prophet, this transcendent evil, are all thrown into the lake of fire. Right?
Yeah.
This is where we get revenge.
Yes, it's done.
This is it. And then, right in chapter 20, you have Satan. So this final battle with Satan after he's been bound up for 1,000 years. This final battle, and Satan is thrown into the lake of fire with
the beast, Satan, the beast, the harlot, whore, the sun-dressed woman, however you want to describe her, and eventually death itself is thrown into the lake of fire.
It's interesting because who is no longer in the lake of fire? The people, the kings of the earth. They're no longer, John omits them from the list of who's all in the lake of fire. And there's an interesting twist here, because not only are they no longer in the lake of fire, but the new heaven and the new earth come down. And where do you imagine the kings of the earth are?
Anywhere but the new heaven and the new earth. But there they are.
There they are.
Processing in with their glory.
Yeah.
And this is the piece. This is the thing that we struggled with so mightily, the whole 5 sessions, these 3 weeks together. is wrestling with their own sense of vengeance and justice. And we asked the people in our class, how do you understand justice and what does it mean? And we ended up with a polarity between justice and mercy and how they can't be the same. And maybe justice becomes weak if we equate it with mercy. And we talked about what salvation means. And all of us wrestling with this word, some of us having been injured by a theological concept of salvation. But this being washed clean, being rescued, being lifted out of something. And so looking at these last chapters of Revelation and trying to understand the whole of this, what if what we're being rescued from is actually our own need for vengeance? That what we're being saved from is our own violent means. When, again, to get back to this idea that apocalyptic literature is in essence about the end of evil, the end of death in this case, what can bring about that end? And it can't be us. Anytime we try to bring about the end of evil and violence, we do nothing but create more evil and violence. So only the Lamb that was slain, who is worthy to open the scrolls, who is worthy to take on the powers of death, can actually do this thing we cannot. And that is judgment. When you capital J, judgment is the end of death, and only the Lamb can do this.
It feels like a subversion of everything that we thought justice was, because here you have the kings. Justice is more about reconciliation.
Right.
The blood of the Lamb that reconciles everyone with one another and with God into this this place of love.
Right.
I guess the kingdom of heaven.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A couple different things to keep in mind, I think, that we can all kind of continue with. You could spend years on this one epistle and never really be done with it. It's a lot of work. But people in the group came to different understanding of it. For those of us who are in the liberal main line, we want to chuck it. We want to throw it out because we actually think that the other interpretations, these violent interpretations, must be the only ones. And the book is simply more complicated than that. One context, perhaps, and this is something I enjoy, that we could read it, if you want to give it a shot, save Revelation. Take it out of your normal lectionary reading. Save it for the Saturday of Holy Week.
Yeah.
So after Good Friday, you go home, you get up Saturday morning, and you read the epistle and realize that this is the battle that Christ fights. When Christ descends into hell, says the Creed, and frees the people of hell and casts Satan out, defeats the powers of death. This is the story that John is relating. This is Holy Saturday. Then go to church on Easter. And maybe we all get a better sense of what the resurrection is about.
Yeah. So in this last chapter, chapter 22, you get this vision of this tree of life that the leaves provide the healing for the nations. So Revelation is not about escaping the world.
Right.
It's about healing the world. The world is a good place in need of healing, mostly because of what we have done to it.
Exactly.
So here are the healing, the leaves for healing. The question Revelation is asking us is not about something in the future, but about the right now. How do we live into this healing of the nations?
Absolutely. That is the question. And that's the question we leave to you all. What would that look like? Envision what that is. And if you think about it, join us on November 6th at First Congregational Church of Wilmette. We have other people. Jim Papandrea will join us from Garrett Evangelical Theological Seminary, and
Charles maybe.
From the United Seminary in Detroit will also join us. We're opening up to the public. Please come. It should be a good time. Jim Papandrea says, and this is what I love, you want to know what our job is in the coming kingdom, in this revelation is. The job of the church is to wait, to persevere in peace. I'll leave that with you. Thanks for joining us for all these sessions and these 5 videos.
Yeah.
And Adam, it's been a lot of fun.
It's been great, Tripp. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
So we'll see you in November.
Peace.
So welcome to the sanctuary of the Community Church of Wilmette, built in 1920. We've been in Wilmette for a little while. What's fun about this sanctuary, other than the fact
that it's pretty full, and there's this beautiful stained glass window. I'm biased, of course. Is that behind the banner, and you can't see it because the banner's in the way, is a little door. And behind the little door is a room for the projector, because this was one of the movie houses in Wilmette at the turn of the last century. Yeah, exactly. Love it. The Presbyterians had the bowling alley, the Baptists had the movie house.
Baptists could watch movies?
Yeah, well, you know, we weren't dancing. It's all good. So, but we have our own version of the Stations of the Cross in our windows. Various stories from Scripture, the baptism of Christ. Anyway, that's what we have. Welcome.